welcome. Hit the like button, hit the bell, hit subscribe and all that good stuff. Share the show. Thank you for listening. This is Joey. Let's get started. So, what's brought me to this topic today is an ongoing issue. And it's something that's come to a head with the governor of Florida. And the governor of Florida has introduced a anti-woke bill. And the real purpose of the anti-woke bill is to block critical race theory in schools. And I want to use this opportunity to show black people, particularly black people who have an affinity towards black politics like myself, a rare opportunity to show you how they do sneak shit with us. I'm not going to really mince any words. I'm going to get right into it. What you're watching with this critical race theory shuffle is a smooth attempt, coordinated by both the left and the right, to ease Black History Month and Black history in general out of American schools. And because black people have decided to just trust the Democratic Party and let them run the country for them, we're going to allow that to happen. You notice when it comes to these critical race theory fights, you don't really see anybody in the proponent position. You notice that? You see diehard anti-critical race theory people on the right. And then you see people on the left, white folks on the left, outright denying that there is critical race theory being introduced in schools. So the left is pretending like the right is fighting against a phantom menace, and the right has created a complete boogeyman out of this, because really the right understands that critical race theory just means black history. And I want to point out some things that are really funny about it. And by funny, I mean maddening, but you know what I mean. The first thing I want to point out that shows you the audacity of white supremacy and the comfort that they have in expressing it, even in modern times, is that they're not even making an argument. Remember, we're in the age of misinformation. If they wanted to block critical race theory, they could easily just use the tools that the Democrats are using, find the slightest arguable hair to split, and use that splitting of a hair to block all discussion, right? That's the Democratic way, right? If you put something up about a certain particular shot, even if it's true, they can block you from misinformation because you didn't use a comma when you made that true, easily provable statement about that thing that you're right about. But you didn't use a comma, so it's inconclusive or it's misleading, right? You could easily do that right now with no fanfare and no resistance if you wanted to. You could make this whole thing a guise about misinformation. But what's very interesting is Republicans, those on the right, aren't even making an argument that critical race theory is misinformation. If you pin them down and you ask them, they'll straight tell you and they'll straight up admit, no, it's all factual. It's all stuff we did. We just don't want to talk about it. That's the very, very first thing I think is very interesting. And everything's based off of that because it shows you how much these people are full of shit on both sides. And let me go on. What's the thing that the Republicans are saying that they're fighting against with regards to the Democrats? What's the thing that they're fighting against that everybody in the country right now is on board with the Republicans about? Free speech and censorship, right? Individual rights. We're anti-mandate. We're anti-censorship, right? And everybody, even if you're not a Republican, is on board with it, unless you're the biggest diehard of Biden right now, right? And this proves that that whole thing is complete bullshit, even though we agree with it. But you see, they don't really believe in it because you're all for free speech when it comes to you being able to say what you want to. You're all for freedoms when it's freedoms you get to express. The second it's somebody who you don't like or somebody who has something to say that you don't like, magically, you're all for censorship. See, when you hear the right complain about political correctness and cancel culture, when you hear Fox News bemoaning cancel culture, or you see Ben Shapiro talking about cancel culture, they're full of shit. They have no problems with cancel culture. They have no problems with censorship. The problems they have are about who gets to decide what is the thing to be censored. Who gets to decide what is the thing that causes you to be canceled? Not too long ago, they had that crown and they loved cancel culture. They loved censorship. If you said something wrong about a war, y'all remember when the Dixie Chicks was like, hey, I don't know about this Afghanistan war. And they was trying to kick the Dixie Chicks out the country. The French was like, hey, man, we can't really back y'all in this war. Man, we're not even calling them French fries no more. We're calling them freedom fries. Here, you take this fucking Statue of Liberty back. They loved censorship. They loved that shit. They loved it when they controlled what made you un-American or American or one of them or one of us or the enemy, right? It was the same censorship. It was the same. If you think contrary to what you think, then you're the enemy. It's the exact same thing. And before that, for years, what was the big censorship that people on the right loved, right? If you was black and you was talking about what was going on in your life with this system in this country, they would censor you. The same people that are telling you that their freedom of speech is being infringed upon, which it is, that their freedom of speech is being infringed upon, and they think people should have the freedom of speech. These are the same people that was telling MLK to shut the fuck up and calling him a race baiter and a troublemaker. That's censorship. And they haven't changed today. I seen a meme that perfectly encapsulated it. It said people fighting against critical race theory are the same people. They're the grandkids of the same people that didn't want you to go to school. And now they don't want you to know what their grandparents did about not wanting your grandparents to go to school. It's the same people. And what we don't acknowledge as black people with the history of this country, with regards to politics and how the sausage is made, is that we don't really look at history and document the pattern of white folks halting justice simply by throwing temper tantrums. Right? They just throw temper tantrums. They've had the decisions of whole wars reversed because they throw a temper tantrum, right? Well, the North won the Civil War thanks to the Negroes and the surge, and so we're going to have to start treating everybody fair. Oh, what's that? You guys formed the Klan and you guys are throwing a tantrum? You know what? Let's get out of the South. Forget this Reconstruction. Just let them have everything back. Let them have the niggers again. That's the compromise. That's the compromise. That's why you still got Dixie flags and Confederate soldier statues in the South to this day, because white folks just say, you know what, just go ahead and let them have it. They're throwing a tantrum. Just go ahead and let the baby have the bottle. And we're always the bottle. These people are saying with no sense of irony, without any sense of irony, they want free speech and they want to be free and they want people, but we don't want them teaching that critical race theory in the schools. Now who's the special goddamn snowflake? You don't want history that actually happened to be taught in the schools because it, quote, makes you look bad. That's what General Pompeo talking about. They know this stuff is true. See, what they're afraid of, the word that they're afraid of in critical race theory isn't even race. It's critical. It's actually review. See, they've been telling people a fairy tale about the history of this country and race relations. They've been telling themselves and their kids a fairy tale for so long. See, they're so worried about critical race theory being taught in school because just a couple of months ago, this is how racist they are. Just a couple of months ago, they refused to acknowledge that the Ku Klux Klan was morally wrong in Texas schools. So you got to read school books. See, so you're okay with little black kids reading school books that depict the Ku Klux Klan as, well, they might have been a little misguided, but, they weren't wrong. In what way? Every day as a black person, you hear about some other teacher in some school in America trying to, well, we're going to dress the black kids as slaves today, and I'm going to step on your head, just to give you a depiction of history, right? Y'all love going over critical race theory with stuff like that. You love making little black kids write articles that they got to write to pass your class, writing articles about the good virtues of slavery. Right? Y'all love doing that. But when it comes to actually talking about what happened, you have to vehemently defend that, because it's not going to take. See, when you give some people that don't have any skin in the game, like your kids, and you put them in a classroom and you teach them what really happened, they're going to draw the same conclusion that anybody would draw. Ooh, that's why they don't like us. You got a lot of little white kids walking around. You got a lot of white adults walking around that don't know where the projects came from. You got a lot of adults that really, you got a lot of white adults that walk around in America today who can read and write and wipe their ass and everything, that really think that niggas just decided to move to the projects one day. Like we all drew lots and we were like, oh, we want the projects. Like you got people that really think that. And then you got a lot of them that know that's bullshit, but they just tell that to themselves and others, because that's the lie that they all have to keep saying to themselves to keep things going. Think about what they call the Negro migration. Like, look at the whitewashing and softening of history when it comes to black people. Well, the Negroes all came up to the North because of all the job opportunities. Negroes. Did you hear from your great-grandparents and your grandparents about all the great job opportunities up north? Or did you hear about niggas fleeing their homes in the South that were on fire because of the Klan? Fleeing for their dear lives, leaving their homes, the one thing they had, and leaving them and just abandoning them. Not even selling their homes. White folks was coming up on free homes, squatting on people's houses, just walking around the South, just taking shit over. And all niggas could do was run for their lives. And that don't even get reported in history. They make it sound like, look at how great we white folks are. We gave them so many opportunities to come up here up north. Just lying their ass off. And then what else gets left out? What else gets left out in history is white folks paint the story like, oh, all the racism was those mean whites in the South who we defeated in the Civil War. And then all their bodies disappeared like a video game after we won. So no more racism. It was over in the Civil War. We fixed all that. They all came up north and started working jobs, and then they got lazy, and then Martin Luther King had to tell them to not be violent. Like that's pretty much how they tell our history, right? It's all a whitewash that totally absolves them of any guilt and makes them look like the hero. White people tell black history in America like we were slaves from another planet and they came and freed us. Yeah, we freed the slaves. Well, who enslaved the slaves? We don't know. They were like that when we got here and the land was just open. Yeah, the Indians gave it to us. Just complete bullshit telling of history with the truth on document on file the whole time. Just lying to you about everything. Lying to you, lied about the Civil War. Oh, yeah, we came and saved you niggas. Most black folks don't even know that it was a surge of black soldiers for the North that really won the Civil War. They don't never talk about that part. You notice you don't never see no niggas in no reenactments of the Civil War. Most black people do not know that. Most Americans, most white Americans either do not know or flat out deny black people contributing in the Civil War and being pivotal. Hell, I'll go as far as say we won the Civil War. We won that shit. They don't talk about how they abandoned us during Reconstruction. But they sure take all that credit for freeing the slaves, right? What did you free? You gave the land back to the slave owners. You hired them as slave patrol. You let them become the police. What did you win? Who did you free? It's the narrative. That's why they be saying the pen is mightier than the sword. It's the narrative. They could just say they did all this shit for you. And a lie that gets repeated over and over again with no detraction is by default the truth. So every generation of black people that's born, every generation of people that's born keeps getting told that lie. And so it just becomes the truth. Yeah, we freed you niggas. It was bad. It was bad, man. Who was enslaved? Oh, man, it was somebody. But man, don't worry about that. We got him. And, you're free now. So you're welcome. And niggas just accept it. Because there's no critical race theory. No one's really looking at this stuff. They just been lying. You want to know how much of a lie the history in this country is? They used to be able to tell you the entire history of this country with a limerick. Hey, how do we get here to America? Oh, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Have a good day. Wait, hold up. That's how the entire country got. All right, nigga, you're asking a lot of questions. They used to be able to tell you your whole history with a limerick. To cover up an entire Native American genocide. Like, what Indians? Right? It just made the whole goddamn thing up. And people used to not be able to question it. It was just considered fact. Because I'm white and I said so. And now we're having a convergence of I'm white and I said so. They can't even agree on the lies no more. See, when you lie, the lie is all good. Like I said, the lie is all good until something comes out to refute it. Now you got to kind of adjust your lie. We've all been there, right? You ever lie about something and the person you're lying to come out with new information? Oh, you was at work today at 3? Oh, yeah, I was there at 3. Yeah, because people said they came by your desk. They didn't even see you. And your voicemail said you was out of the office for the day. And when they emailed you, they said you was on PTO. You sure you went to work at 3? Now you got to adjust your lie. I was there at 3:30. I came in for a minute. I wasn't work. You always got to adjust your lie when new information keeps coming out. And every day with black folks, they're finding a new mass burial, a new politician that got a Klan's robe on or a blackface picture somewhere. Wait till they start using facial recognition and start looking at all them lynching pictures y'all love to keep in your closet. So we're in a position right now where we're sitting back watching two groups of people that do not have our best interest in mind argue over the fate of our own history. And we're not getting involved at all. I know you've been told by certain influencers to stay away from critical race theory, but I don't think that those people fully understand what's happening. See, they're saying critical race theory, but they're using that talk. They're using that talk to move out books by MLK. They're using that talk to move out anything that has to do with black history. And the guise they're using it under is, I don't want my kid being taught that critical race theory. That's the new trick. So black people are going to have to start getting in this fight. And what we don't realize is, like I said before, both sides are playing us. How the Democrats and Republicans work is when they want something to pass, one side will magically become very weak. And the other side will become a mastermind and be very strong. That's because they're actually, you think when you see the Republicans and Democrats fight that you're watching a fight. But what you're really watching is political choreography. There are no two sides. That's just a game they play. The Democrats and Republicans play good cop, bad cop with America. And we fall for it every time. You notice, simply think of it like this. Look at all the things the Democratic Party is weak on right now that they just can't seem to get done. And then look at how the Democratic Party is magically the galactic empire when it comes to this shot. You notice that Joe Manchin, Joe Manchin can block anything that the Democrats are trying to do right now, but he can't stop that COVID shit. You notice that? Joe Manchin couldn't say, yeah, I don't know about these COVID mandates. He can't block that shit. If Joe Manchin tried to block that from Joe Biden would take Joe Manchin behind the woodshed. You'd see Joe Manchin up there voting in favor all of a sudden with a black eye and a busted rib, breathing real slow. Joe Manchin don't really got no power. They let Joe Manchin pretend to have power so they have an excuse for why they're not doing the shit they don't want to do. Remember, the same Congress that got Stop Asian Hate passed in 90 days could not get a George Floyd bill passed. Wink, wink. So when you see the Democratic Party falling back, ceding ground, admitting defeat, flat out denying that they were even trying to pursue putting, quote unquote, critical race theory in classes. What is critical race theory anyway? Why are they making this up? They're just flat out denying. Who critical who? No, we ain't got no critical race theory. No. That's the other Democrats, right? When you see one party fighting vehemently against something and the other group not even fighting, that lets you know they're in lockstep with each other. At the least, they're willing to sacrifice you. And you look at the very, very weak response from the black activists and Democrats involved with the party, and it lets you know the Democrats really aren't enthusiastic in fighting that fight, and they could really care less if black history is erased from schools. And black history being erased from schools is why you have so many racist ass attitudes towards black people from normally seemingly intelligent adults, even black people. See, when I was a kid, nowadays you turn on the History Channel and the History Channel is nothing but pawnbrokers and mythbusters and shit and junkyard searches. But when I was a kid, the History Channel used to have nonstop Nazis. I remember Jay Leno even made a joke about that. Nazis 24/7. They marching from one side of the screen and then they're marching for the other. It was always about the 1940s. And the reason that was, I didn't understand why that was the case. But then as I got older, I realized that back in the day, the biggest contributors to the History Channel were like Jewish historian firms that wanted to make sure that people were well aware of what had happened. And that was the best way to drill it in people's heads, was to always have World War II, what led up to World War II, the attitudes in the 40s right before World War II and during, and how that affected the Jewish community. You don't have that with black people. White people have done a very good job of whitewashing American history and lying about what goes on here. That's why you notice whenever something racist goes on in America that's really bad, like the George Floyd case, America gets embarrassed. America puts more effort and more energy into silencing it than actually fixing the problem, right? We knew George Floyd was going to get a fair trial because that shit, it went global. They had to cover that up. You see, look at this example. Look at how white folks patted themselves on the back and did a victory march because they put the killers of Ahmaud Arbery in jail. And these killers were caught on camera. I mean, in the most obvious ass open and shut case you could possibly imagine. And they're proud because 11 of the 12 jurors were white and convicted an obviously group of guilty people guilty. They went on TV. You had Tulsi Gabbard on there taking a victory lap saying, well, obviously America isn't racist because they convicted him. Now, why would you go on TV, right, and say and make that statement? That's if you have a guilty conscience. You know you got a bad reputation for being racist, and so you're going on world news and saying, see, we're not racist. We finally convicted one of them. Like the world ain't seen you take racist active shooters that shoot up black churches to Burger King as a reward. like the world ain't seen that shit. Right? But you finally begrudgingly under duress voted the most guilty niggas that you could find guilty. And you're like, see, that's proof we're not racist. Right? You're about 60 years removed from letting niggas that blow up churches with little black girls in them walk. But look at our progress. Right? Full of shit. But America gets embarrassed about that because it's been doing such a good job lying about the history here. And not even just the history, live action lying. Live action. America can have niggas swinging from trees where the police obviously had something to do with it. And they'll be like, oh, they all died of suicide. And we all got to be like, yep, they all died of suicide. Some nigga managed to climb 15 feet high in a tree and hang himself despite these defensive wounds under his nails. But yeah, he hung himself. That's probably how he climbed up there, right? Yeah, that's fine. This isn't even history. This is live in the action. All these missing black girls and shit. People don't even know. Most people don't even know that there was an entire child sex ring involving little black girls that the police ended up being exposed as being involved in. This was during the George Floyd protest. That's why they blocked that even from hitting the news, because they knew it was going to go up. The families found out that the police was involved. That's why they weren't cooperating when all the girls were missing. And when the families found the house that all of it was going on in, the police were there. The families burned that shit to the ground. What did the news do? The news went out of its way to deny that it was even happening. Covered up for the police, buried the story. Now here's where, I did a show. I did an episode called What is a Conspiracy Theory? And in that show, I was shitting on Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan experience and all the people that go on his show for a little bit. And what I was saying was Joe Rogan's show is touted by people in the white community on the right and in the middle as being this balanced, fair, open, free-thinking show where people get to really have nuanced conversation, and it's low-key kind of shown like, let's make Joe Rogan God, right? But then when you bring some black shit up on a Joe Rogan show, all of a sudden, all of the crazy theories and goofy shit they be talking about all day long that was completely, totally acceptable, now when you're talking about some nigga shit, that's a theory or a conspiracy theory, that's beyond the pale. That's the one thing that'll make them people on that show look at you like, get the fuck out of here. That's what drives me crazy. You're willing to entertain. You're not accepting as truth, but willing to entertain the idea of any conspiracy theory. But when niggas tell you stuff that is factually confirmed, y'all play the game. Every other episode, they talking about JFK, the grassy knoll, the magic bullet, JFK. What do you think happened with JFK? Fuck JFK. MLK was confirmed to be assassinated by the government in 1999. There's not no speculation. Do you think, just think about this for a minute. If they reopened a case on JFK where the evidence became so damning that the U.S. government had been involved in the assassination of JFK, that the U.S. government calls off the trial and makes a out-of-court settlement deal with the family, do you think that would be big news on Joe Rogan's show amongst all his guests, or no news? I'm so tired of hearing about the damn moon landing. They love to fill their minds and wax poetic about conspiracy theories that don't mean shit to regular people. But then you got conspiracy fact. Shit they know goes on. Shit they know goes on that we just have to act like, for the betterment of the country being together, we just can't talk about. It's an open secret that they know that everything in critical race theory is real, but they're offended by it because it makes them feel bad. But they call other people special fucking snowflakes. You know, when you really think about it, I used to kind of rag on the LGBTQ a little bit, not because of their lifestyle choice, but because of how they try to make everybody else adjust to their imagination, right? Call me a girl, nigger. Like we got to all pretend like you're a girl because you feel like a girl. That's what white folks do in general. Look at these people. Look at them January 6 ass niggas. Look at these people and look at how everybody got to adjust around them all the time, right? They are the beneficiaries of the biggest affirmative action program the world has ever known. Your system, you had messed things up in the shithole countries that you come from in Europe so bad, right? So bad that your corrupted kings had run out of the money they've been stealing from other countries for so long, they had to make a new spot. They had to make new spots. They had to kill inhabitants and enslave inhabitants and kill people in new places just to get you a place where you could start over. Your king over there in white people land described getting you out of the UK as flushing the bowels, flushing the bellows and the bowels of our prisons and our infirmaries. They knew, okay, these are crazy people and prisoners and shit. We got to get rid of all these people. Coming to America as a white person during the colonies, that was usually like a sentence, because they needed to get white folks over here to get the numbers up. So if you was some dirty, backtrodden, criminal-minded white person that got caught doing something slick, they could either kill you or send you to America. We're going to send you to the colonies. That's why Australia, all them white folks were just straight up prisoners. They just dropped them off in the middle of Australia and let them kill up. They killed so many people in Australia. This is what I'm talking about critical race theory. Them Paul Hogan looking niggas that live in Australia, those aren't even Australians. Those are white English prisoners that got dropped off in a prison colony. They killed and raped and ate every single person that was really in Australia and in Tasmania. Those are all black people. You see a few black people in Australia now with gray hair. They barely let them outside. They're still trying to kill them off. They used to have documented meetings. This is TV where they would be talking about any black person who's ever heard the phrase quadroon or octoroon, and you don't really know what that phrase means, and you thought it meant high yellow or red bone. No, that was the fractions white people used to count how close you were to being finally bred out. And by the time you was an octoroon, it was one more step, baby. Your kid's about to hit the white lotto. They don't want to talk about that kind of stuff because it shows you how savage they were. And also another reason why they don't want to talk about a lot of this stuff is because a lot of this stuff never stopped or is repeated. And you'll start to see the patterns if they start teaching you the history. But I'm not done with Joe Rogan and his ilk, because they're getting passed off as the sensible whites. And I still smell the bullshit. And I like Joe Rogan. I like his show. I enjoy his show. But at the same time, I know where the bullshit starts, right? You want to hear all these conspiracy theories and what? But we got actual shit on the record. Gloria Steinem starting the black feminist movement to undermine black. That's documented. They got meeting documents. Good job, Gloria. So how are you going to fuck up the black people today? Like, it's not no mystery. There's recordings of Margaret Sanger saying we mustn't let the Negro know that we're trying to exterminate them. Like these aren't conspiracy theories. But what they do is they paint a narrative. And that's a narrative that America doesn't like about itself. America does a lot of covering up with how it treats and how it does black people. And when you have a liar telling your history, the last thing you want to get out is the damn truth. There's a big effort, and there's always been. You know, like when somebody doesn't want to mention something, they don't want you to bring something. You know, that's why you bringing up old shit. And then you got to bring it up. So they start doing little things to get you off of it, trying to talk over you, trying to get you to rap. Yeah. You know. That's what white folks do whenever we talk about black history or black life. It ain't even just black history. It'd be shit going on right now. They didn't want you talking about Mike Brown. They didn't want you talking about Trayvon Martin. They didn't want you talking about Breonna Taylor. They didn't want you talking about George Floyd. They didn't want that shit. See, back in what they refer to as the good old days, that shit wouldn't even make the news. It would be a rumor amongst niggas. That's all it would matter to. Hey, I heard they killed Johnny. That shit wasn't making the 5 o'clock news. You want to see how they really were? Go look at the newspaper in 1964, 68, when MLK got killed. They didn't give that man no respectful send-off like controversial activist was killed today. But nigga, they was clowning MLK in the news when he got killed. And now they want to come around. Oh, Happy birthday to Martin Luther King. You blacks need to quit dishonoring your king with your violence. Like, nigga, y'all killed him. We don't get to talk about that stuff because it makes white people uncomfortable, right? Like they're acting like we've gotten past. Why are you bringing up old shit, nigga? We've gotten past all that. Like y'all don't got KKK and MAGA hats walking down the street right now. Here's the funny part about all that MAGA shit. Black folks, hats off to us, we stayed out of white folks' white ass business with this election when Trump got elected. We stayed out of it. We said, hey, it's white on white crime. Let them work it out. They had to keep bringing us in the shit. Republicans and Democrats both need black people for votes. Democrats need black people for votes by getting us to vote. Republicans need black people to use as boogeymen to get their people to vote. So us being out of it didn't mean anything. They had to make up something. That's one thing the Democrats are telling the truth about when they say we weren't even pushing for critical race theory. They weren't. They don't give a damn about no critical race theory. That was something that these people made up to push black history out of the schools. That's some. Notice, I'm getting ahead of myself. Pay attention to the theme. Pay attention to the patterns. Look at the consistency. There's always consistency in inconsistencies. Pay attention to the pattern. You can't get up, right? You'll get up for critical race theory being taught in the schools and all this kind of shit. But you want people to not trip on whatever you're saying and you're anti-censorship and all that kind of shit, right? You got so up in arms about defund the police because you got so much respect for the thin blue line and all that bullshit, right? But look at everything that you tolerate from the police. You guys was cool when they were going to release people that they had falsely imprisoned, proven by DNA evidence. You guys were cool with them keeping those people in the prisons so they get free firefighters. You guys were cool. You guys know for a fact, it's not a conspiracy theory. Y'all be knowing for a fact that they got dead black people on their hands. Not criminals, just dead black folks. And y'all support that shit. Y'all are cool with that. You're cool with the system being completely corrupt because it doesn't affect you. You know what it's there for. When people told you they wanted to reform the police, you turned it into defund the police to make it unpopular. And black folks noticed the left and the right both turned on you with that. They're showing you in every kind of way, we're totally fine with things being that way. We want them to be that way. You know how white folks are always, we wish there was something we could do, right? And then something like this happens and magically, look at them. Now there's something they can do. Look at how active they can get. When they don't want you to get shit. Can't lift a finger when they say they want you to get something. But when it looks like you're about to get something, or they want to take something away from you, look at how active and how busy they get. And I shouldn't just say white folks, because that makes it like all of them. But let's keep it real. Pretty much all of them are comfortable with this because it doesn't affect them. They don't like being embarrassed. That's the real reason they didn't like Trump, because Trump says the quiet parts out loud and he brings attention to it. I ain't never got apologized to by white folks more in my life than in 2016. White folks was apologizing left and right. We're so sorry about Trump. I didn't vote for him. I didn't. No, I didn't vote for him. I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed. But you're not embarrassed of Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is like a half a step down from a Donald Trump. When you really think he's really blue Trump. He's technically more racist. He's more racist by policy. But Joe Biden really only slightly knows how not to say the establishment words out loud. But even Joe Biden can't hold back his disdain for black people in his now more senile years, he'll flat out tell you all blacks are the same. He said that on the campaign trail. So just know that now that the Democrats got their mileage out of black people with the 2020 election, they've made it clear they're wholly uninterested in anything going on with us. And just know that your other enemy is vehement and dogged on erasing your legacy and your history. They've been waiting to try to erase MLK from the books for a while. They've been waiting to try to erase MLK from them books for a while. That's the MLK and the civil rights movement are a big loss to them. Why? Because what was the strategy of the civil rights movement? We're still seeing reverberations from the civil rights movement even today. The strategy of the civil rights movement was to put that ass on blast. See, people that don't get the strategy are thinking, man, they was weak. They was sitting there taking them punches and getting beat up and getting fire hosed and dogs. No, that was happening to black people anyway. But what was white America doing with the world? Lying about it. Just goddamn lying about it. Think about it. This went down in the 60s, right? What did I just say happened in the 40s that the History Channel kept talking about? World War II. And America got to pretend like they were the shining country. They were the heroes of we're the we're the good whites. North America, where we're all the North, right? They all got to play the Union Army against the Nazis and pretend like we don't believe in that here. They played that shit up so hard against Germany. But what did Hitler tell Franklin Delano Roosevelt? When the American president was asking him about how you're treating these Jews, he said, I learned everything I learned from watching how y'all do niggers. Didn't have nothing to say back. It was like that drug commercial. I learned it from watching you, Dad. Like, oops. This is why everybody laughs at the U.S. whenever we start talking about humanitarian rights and shit at the G7 meetings. We're like, nigga, shut your slaving ass up, America. We hear what you got to say. America's like that person that's been living a lie for so long that they think everybody else believes it, right? But deep down, everybody knows, that nigga used to own slaves, right? Yeah, that nigga got his money off of slave owning. You lying, telling everybody you got it off of farming. Like, yeah, you sure did. Like, everybody in the world knows how America got down and got its riches. We're the telltale heart of America. Every time you see a nigga, it's like evidence. It's really embarrassing. Only time you see somebody named Washington, Jefferson, Jackson, Lincoln, it's always a black person. So you got these people living a lie from the 40s. We're the heroes. We're having a baby boom. We're the good whites. And then all your little secrets for the world get put on blast. The world gets to see how you treat niggas. The world gets to see that you're a hypocrite piece of shit that ain't changed since 1619. You're the exact same Mr. Brady who sold Kizzy. You're the exact same damn person. You just been able to cut. You're a sociopath of a country. It's all a lie. All of it's a lie. That was the strategy of the civil rights movement. It was like in football, when you kind of hit somebody and you let them hit you back and you getting beat up, but the referee's seeing it now. That's what the civil rights movement was. I'm going to go sit at this table. I'm going to sit at this whites only table. And I'm going to get my ass whooped. And I'm going to record this shit. So that the world can see how fake, how all this fake civilization over here in America, how savage these white folks get when you do something like sit at their table. And truth be told, them Europeans was doing it to their Africans too. So were all these Hispanics, right? But you know what people don't like? People don't like that shit being put on blast. Look at how fake. I'll give you a perfect example. When George Floyd went down, look at how fake all these other countries that we know are racist as shit were trying to come out and show solidarity to show we're not like America. Nigga, you had Israel coming out talking about, yeah, everybody knows Israel's anti-racist. Whole world was looking over like, nigga, what are you talking about? Nigga, you're Israel. Everybody was coming out trying to act like, we're not like America. We're not racist. That's how it was back in the 60s. All these other countries who were just as dirty to their black people too, they saw America getting shamed for what it was doing. America put itself on, but Americans were so into being racist and savage, they didn't even realize. I mean, keep in mind, these are the kind of people that form up 30, 50, and 20, 30, 50, 200 deep and lynch one black person and then take a group photo. Name me one group of niggas in any street gang, any savagery that would take pictures next to the body they just killed. That shows you, and they'd have kids in the pictures and everything. That shows you not only their comfort with that savagery, but the fact that they knew they weren't really facing any consequences if they ever got caught. That's the most mask off thing you can do. I'm going to pose next to the body I just killed. As a group. It wasn't even like you saw a bunch of able-bodied hoodlum white men. You'd see moms and dads, people pushing strollers and shit, right with a lynched body in the middle of the picture. That's normal to them. They have to hide those tendencies now. That's why they don't like well, when they say political correctness, let's be real. Political correctness is an open term that can really just mean following the language and rules of the dominant society at the time, the dominant social order. This is another hypocritical statement. So when they say they're against political correctness, they're full of shit because they began political correct. See, back in the day, it was politically incorrect for a black person to point out racism. A white person could walk up, beat the shit out of your mom on Mother's Day right in front of your whole family. Hey, nigger bitch, and start beating the shit out of your mom because he don't like her black face. And if you pointed out how racist that was, you would be labeled a race baiter. You would be labeled, oh, you're ruining the good peace here. We had separate but equal, and here you go being a nigger race baiter causing trouble. You are being politically incorrect. The politically correct thing to do would be to apologize for your mother's face getting in the way of that nice white man's fist and to keep it moving. Get your ass up, mama, bothering these nice people. Told you not to come down here for that beach cruiser, right? That is what was considered politically correct for that time. Some white man call you over there and tell you to do an old soft shoe. Boy, you look just like Sammy Davis Jr. Dance for me. Dance for me, Bojangles. And your ass is supposed to dance. If you refuse to dance, you would be called uppity and promptly hung. You are being politically incorrect. These people have no problem with political correctness. They have a problem with the changing social order that governs political correctness. They're full of shit. And they get to do both things in live time. Talking all that freedom from tyranny shit, but then also talking about Blue Lives Matter. Knowing that the police are the goddamn redcoats. They're going to enforce every draconian law you can imagine. Who you think is going to come take your guns? White folks in 2021 fighting just as hard to keep nigger history out of school as their grandparents fought to keep niggas out of school in general. So I wanted to point out, I'm not going to go too far beyond that. I think I've made my point. I wanted to point out, when you hear these people talking about how they're against political correctness or they're against censorship or they're about freedom and they're about justice, just look how they're talking about black history, American history, what they did, where they really came from. They don't want you seeing that they're the beneficiaries of handouts and special favors and special treatment. They didn't really get here through hard work. They don't want people knowing that niggas are the hard workers, that niggas built the country, not immigrants. We can't keep compromising on the country's history no more. It's time for black folks to start talking that shit. Matter of fact, I thought y'all wanted White History Month. If Democrats aren't going to take this critical race theory reign, we need to take that shit ourselves. And this lets us further know that the Democratic Party isn't a party to be taken seriously when it comes to black folks. Signing out.